Well, hello there, and welcome once more to the Open Door Show from propertyCEO. My name's Ritchie, as if you don't know that already, and it's great to have you here. Over the next 30 minutes, got a real treat for you today. I've been trying to persuade this individual to come onto Open Door for some time, and eventually I've got him here. Great friend of mine, known him for a number of years, so I think it's going to be a great bit of a chat today. And we're always going to take a deep dive of the world of small-scale property development. That's what we do here at propertyCEO. And as I say, talking to movers and shakers and someone today, I think it's going to be quite interesting. And always have a bit of fun. Okay, most important thing I think in life is have a bit of fun. And if you have a bit of fun, well, you're going to learn. And ultimately, life is far too short not to. That's my opinion. So what are we doing on today's show? Well, I've got an architectural designer. I've got a gentleman called Dorell Thompson. He comes from a company called Dorell Design to Build. And I met Dorell at an event that we were running. And I know what's quite interesting about Dorell is he wants to be a developer as well. So for all you developers out there, the great thing is this is an architect who is understanding development because that's his next step forward to actually get into development. So, what better person to have on board alongside you, but someone who actually understands what you do. And what I like as well about Dorell is Dorell's a one-man band, okay? And the great thing, I think, there's always causes for going for larger firms, but smaller firms sometimes, and particularly with one-man bands, you get that attention to detail. You know how important you are. So certain projects it's not right for, but other projects you can't do better than going to that individual who's absolutely passionate about his business. And I know that Dorell is passionate about his. So I'd like to bring on today's show, hopefully he's here, Dorell Thompson, architectural designer from Dorell Design to Build. Dorell, are you there?
Hello, Ritchie. How you doing?
I'm very good, Dorell. Nice to see you. Nice to see you on here today. I'm pleased you've turned up.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I got to let you into a secret, folks. Here, I was with Dorell the other day up in Canary Wharf in London at an event I was presenting. I hadn't seen him for a while, and I said, "You got to come on Open Door." And he was, not really sure. And there was another gentleman there, Dorell. I can't remember his name, and he said, "Dorell, you got to take it. You got to do it." And you said yes. Do you remember that gentleman?
Yes, Steve. Steve was his name.
Was it? Was he a friend of yours? I don't remember. First time I'd met him.
First time I met him as well. First time I met him there as well.
But he said you had to do it, and then my team reached out, and you've agreed to do it. So I'm really pleased, Dorell, to have you here.
No problem. Thank you very much for the invitation.
So we're going to talk about architecture and development. And I think, as always, we like to get a bit of an inside track, Dorell. So I want you to have a think about things that developers do wrong, so we can actually try and help people out there that's listening to do these things right. But first of all, just going back, I mean, you've been in the industry now way over 25 years. I think you've been in the industry quite a long time. And am I right in saying one of your first early projects was to do with how you've really got into this and got motivated was the conversion of your church? It wasn't a church to start with, and you got involved in converting your church, into its church from something like that. Is that right? Tell me the story.
That's correct. Yes. What happened is I was doing my architectural studies at the time, and my church bishop, we just bought a cinema, and he said, "Look, Dorell, you do architecture. Why not come along and see if you can convert this into a church for us?" And I thought, well, why not? Let me take a chance. So I went and actually did a survey, looked at it, looked at some old churches in the past, and thought, right, you know what? Let me just put the design together. So I had to design a baptismal pool, a choir stand, a musician pit, and all these kind of things, and actually take the cinema layout, removing all the old cinema screens and everything like that to create this, and that's what we did, and so that's what I did.
And is it still the same building that your church is in?
Yes, it's still the same building. They've actually did a bit of added interior design to it, but the whole bones and everything like that, the whole structure and everything like that is still the same that I created a few years ago, about over 20 years ago.
That must have been a fantastic project. I mean, not only are you doing a great job for your community and your church, which is obviously a great passion, for your religion and what you're in for there, but actually, to keep going back and seeing that time after time, and that's a pretty big project to kick off with, isn't it?
Oh yes. I've actually asked to do quite a few smaller churches since then, but yeah, that was a milestone for me.
Good stuff. And just to give me, just so people understand a bit, what sort of projects do you work on now? Obviously, a few churches still, but what other sort of projects?
Well, my main bread and butter really is just doing extensions, lot conversions, the small development projects, which is adding what's the name, extra spaces to residential homes, converting them to flats, converting them to HMOs. Also, a small commercial units, I convert those into flats. Probably I might extend some shops and things like that. Do a bit of mixed use stuff. But those are the small, I'd say small projects, but mainly small residential projects. Is my bread and butter kind of thing.
Wow, good. Well, look, I mean, Don, we teach, as I know you well know, but small scale property development, which is always this sort of between 5 and 20 units, which is
Right.
probably quite a sweet spot for you as well, isn't it? As a business there at Dorell.
Yes, definitely. Yes. I like those are kind of projects I believe I can handle. What's the name, where I can actually take a project, walk into a small industrial building, small commercial building, see the space, know how to divide it up, find out how we're going to run the services and things like that. And that's the kind of thing that I want to look to moving into right now.
And I know you're looking to build your team around you as well. And development. Tell me about development then, because that's where we first met. You did a couple of things with us, but you want to get into development. Why is that a passion of yours?
I've always had a passion for property when I was younger. That's hence me doing architecture. I thought that would be the best route for me to go, and being a creative person as well. The things I want to do is I want to actually build up, not only provide nice, good quality homes for people, but also like to kind of gain a nice constant income for myself, to give me a better lifestyle, so I can actually be able to enjoy a lifestyle with my family, a bit of traveling, and things like that. And so that's my main reason for having properties. And I think it's one of the best places. If you look at the rich list, most of them have properties as part of their portfolio and their wealth building.
Yeah. Would you? I mean, I'm guessing, and again, the people might be listening to this, interested to join up and work with some small developers and do some joint ventures together.
Oh, definitely. That's my aim to do. Working with our small developers, doing joint venture projects, providing what's the name, more or less to design to turnkey finish service for them, really, to actually provide a good service that they can say, right, you know what, let's move on to the next project, let's do the next project. So that's my aim, really, to create a nice environment, make it nice and easy for them, but also making it, I say, worth their while as well. That's my
Good. Well, look, if you're out there listening and you think, well, actually, I quite like the sound of Dorell. Well, I mean, you might not listen to the rest of this interview and see, but actually, if you do, reach out to him. Reach out. We'll get his contact details at the end. Dorell, what I want to do, just to try and tease out and actually help people that's listening, I want to think of things that developers do wrong. Let's think of 3 things, if we can chat around those today. Give me the first thing that pops into your mind that developers out there do wrong time and time again.
Right. One of the first things I think developers tend to do is to feel that they can build whatever they want to build. And so they have a building and think, well, you know what? I just want to throw this up here and so on, and no consequence, not considering the environment, not considering what they have around them or anything like that. So that's one of my challenges, to say, well, you can't do this. Let's look at this. How can we kind of create this out of here? You've got to look at this neighbor, you've got to look at your surroundings to make sure that we can actually create this thing here. That's one of my first things that I find with developers. They're not considering their surroundings or feel that they can just build anything wherever they want.
When you say when they want to build anything, do they have any regard or in their mind to planning to start with? Let's just talk about planning. Or do they just think, oh, planning doesn't matter, I can just extend this, I can do that, or whatever? Do they not really understand planning?
Some people understand. Some people believe they can do without planning.
Can do without planning, they think.
Yes. Some people feel like they have a little bit, like, if they want to extend here or add this here, they feel like they don't need planning because it's their own land. Some people feel that, oh, it's all right because planning will understand, planning will accept this, and they don't know what the criteria are for the planning commission or a PD, or whether it's PD and rights or whatever. They think that, oh, well, my friend's done this, so why can't I do this as well? So that's what I kind of get. I say, no, there's a process you have to go through, and you have to follow up certain ways of doing things. So That's what I find with some of the smaller scale developers.
So there's perception that it's my little bit of England, it's my little bit of land, and if I want to extend my little bit of land, then everyone's going to be fine, because it doesn't work like that. Just for people that don't know, planning permission, just describe. I know, because there's bound to be someone listening today that maybe listened to Open Door for the first time, and if you are, you're very, very welcome. What is planning permission? Could you just describe that for people?
Right. Planning is a legislation position where the local authority has set criteria that people have to follow. Well, anyone that wants to do any kind of extension development, they have to follow a process, and they have to go through the process of seeking permission to do so. But also with planning permission, it's also sometimes left up to the planning officer whether these permissions are granted or whether these have been approved. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you don't know what the criteria are. So what you finally have to do, especially as an agent on behalf of the client, is to have regular conversations with planners, because it's not straightforward. You have to kind of have discussions saying, look, what can we do? How can we adjust this? How can we make this work, and things like that. So planning, even though they have all these policies, sometimes it's not straightforward. It's left to the interpretation of the planning officer that you're dealing with, really.
So even though there's sort of policies set down, the planning officer has to interpret those, and you've got to liaise with the planning officer to interpret those in relevant to the design that you're looking at for those clients, and then tell them what they have to do to get that permission.
Yeah, sometimes you find that different planners have different planning officers have a different idea of what they believe is acceptable. And so, or who knows, they might have a certain quota of a certain type of thing, and they're saying, well, we're not allowing this one, even though they've allowed it a couple of months ago or whatever. So that's what you're going to deal with planning officers and planning departments.
I mean, the planning system is a bit of a mess, isn't it?
Oh gosh, yes. A lot of people you find that they have less staff with more workloads, and sometimes the process takes even longer than you expect it to as well.
I mean, we obviously have permitted development rights in this country, and I know it's an area you've done some work on and you want to do more in, which is great. But of course, they are terrific for short-circuiting that planning system, isn't it? Because we have just a handful of rules that we have to tick, and if we tick those boxes, there's certain buildings that we can obviously convert into residential.
Yes, that's the aim I'm trying to push, because I find that that's much more easier. I've done more things through permitted development rights rather than going through the plans. If I can dodge the planning department, then yes, I will definitely do so. Rights.
I love the fact if I can dodge them, I will. And why wouldn't you? Yeah, why wouldn't you? Going back, you talked about these developers. They think they can do whatever they want in terms of, you say, the planning, environmental. One thing I've found, I don't know if you found this, but a lot of new people don't actually understand building control, because that's another process we have to go through, follow, and get approval on, isn't it? Do you find developers don't seem to understand building control and they want to dodge that?
To a certain degree, yes. When I was explaining the process, they feel like once they've got their planning permission, that's it. They can build whatever they want. But I said, no, there's another stage where we have to make sure we conform with the building regulations and conform with insulation, conform with fire, and all those kind of things that we have to comply with as well. So we have to not only submit detailed drawings of what the construction is going to be and how and any structural elements that need to be detailed as well. But we also have to make sure the lines up with the specifications, regulation specifications, and all that kind of stuff as well. So I try to explain that there's a process to this before you can actually get your building across the line and actually get this done. And also we have to have regular inspections from the building control inspector as well, to check that the works that we've carried out is done in accordance with the building regulations. So I encourage them with that as well, to do that as well.
Because I guess you've seen this as well, that a lot of people, they see they've got a set of planning drawings, they've got planning approval, but sometimes what you've got planning approval for doesn't necessarily comply with building regulations, because they are two separate departments, aren't they, in the local authority?
That's right. Sometimes, and I find sometimes the planners don't seem to consider what the building regulations needs to be adhered to as well. I've had some applications where I've had to say, well, you know what, this don't conform. They want to change something and say, look, this don't really conform with the building regulations. and they say, well, you know what, this is what we want to do, this is what we want. And so what I'm going to try and do is adjust the drawing to try to both conform with the planning as well as building regulations, and make sure that both I can be successful in both, really. So
you've got to steer your way through
yes.
the two departments effectively.
Yes, definitely, yes.
What about, just the thought that's popped in my head? That's a question I often get asked. Get interested to get your opinion. A lot of people say, because we have two choices, we can either go to a local authority for building regulations approval, or we can go to private building regulations inspectors, which are authorized to do the same. Obviously, the local authority ones are often a bit cheaper. The private ones are a bit more expensive. When would you go to one or to the other, in your opinion?
I find that the builders that I work with tend to like to use the private ones, and the reason is because I think they can get it's more easy for them to call them out and have a conversation, and to get not so much get around things, but they can actually get more information from them, and they can steer them more easily. Sometimes I also find that the local authority ones, they do that and they're much more thorough, but they will say no. I think the local authorities might most likely to say no, you got to do this, and a bit more strict. While the private ones are slightly more lenient for the builders. That's what I find. But to me personally, it's probably better to have them for big, like say the more larger projects, have the private ones, because you know that once you call them, and then call the private ones, they can come out as soon as possible. While with a local council ones, they tend to take quite a bit of time, because they've got so much work on their hands. So you probably have to wait a few days before they come out to see a project.
It could slow you up. I guess what we're saying is, with the private ones, they maybe work more collaboratively with you as an architect and as the developer, to try and help find that solution. A bit more proactive, perhaps.
Yes, definitely. Yes, we're saying, especially with the builders as well. So if the builders are having if they tend to have a problem, the private ones are saying, right, you know what, this might be a solution. Have a look at this, or look at this as an alternative. The councils do that as well. So the council ones do that as well. It's just that I find that the private ones, they just come up more regularly. They're much more easy to access than the council one.
Brilliant insight, Dorell. That's great. I appreciate that. I think that'd be very useful for people. Okay, we talked about developers think they can do what they want. Give us a second thing, in your many years' experience in this as an architect. What else do we do wrong as developers?
Some people, they don't run the numbers. They don't seem to look at the numbers. I'm thinking, everything's cheap, or it's just going to cost me this to build this, or to make this adjustment, and I think they don't really take into consideration the numbers that need to be done, or the extent of the works that need to be carried out to fulfill these things. So that's one of my observations, really, of developers.
So what you're saying is that they've got this expectation, these developers probably are uneducated, unfortunately, who they've got this expectation, and they think, okay, I can build all of that and convert that existing office building or that industrial building into all these 7 or 8 flats for a lot cheaper than the reality.
Yes, I find that, especially with the smaller projects, they tend to watch Homes Under the Hammer. And they say, oh, we can actually people say, no, we paid this for this, and they're thinking, that's the kind of price range that we should look at spending. And then when it comes to reality, what they want is not of that type of price, because they want something more, or they extend more. So that's what I find with these developers. They watch these programs and thinking, it's going to be about that kind of price, or they have that kind of, because people say this kind of price that they pay for it, they think it's that price as well.
I think that's as funny as anything. That is that people. I mean, you'd almost believe that they couldn't do that, but actually, yeah, I guess that's the reality. These TV programs are very influential, and people have. I mean, I've never had that today, but I love that people have actually got their pricing information off of Homes Under the Hammer. Can't be bad, can it?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what other advice we'd get off the TV. I mean, I don't know if there's some sort of legal program that we would get our legal advice or insurance advice or health advice. Mind you, I suppose you do. I guess it's all over the telly.
Yeah.
Going back to the numbers then, and you say they get their numbers wrong. Are you finding then that a lot of developers are not using quantity surveyors, cost consultants to establish their numbers?
Yeah, I think what they tend to do is they listen to what the builder says because the builder wants to get the work.
Yeah.
And so the builder said, so they throw up. Sometimes they don't have drawings to present to them. They say, oh, we want to build it. The builder gives them a generalized pricing to probably win the work. And then once the work starts, they're thinking, oh, gosh, he said it's going to be this, and he said it's going to be that. The builder said it's going to be this. And they go, well, you've got to fulfill this, you've got to have this, you've got to look at this, and you've got to look at that. And who knows, have you taken into any contingencies or anything like that into account or anything like that? And they haven't done that. They just seen that the builder knows it. He's told them that price. And sometimes, even though the builders clearly said this is an estimate, they hold that figure and they feel that that's the figure that it should be. And that's what I find with some of my clients, or smaller clients.
I guess, you see, the builder's intentions are probably good, the builders, but of course, you said he's not really got sufficient information to price it. And of course, he's probably a bit on the spot. Oh, I think it'll cost about 300,000 or whatever number he comes up with. And as you say, then they're holding him to that, which is, or I guess there are unscrupulous builders who put that low price in and then talk it back up.
Yes, to win it, probably to get the work, and then I say, oh, we've come across this now. That's going to cost you this, or we've come across this, that's going to cost you that. So I find they probably come across some builders that do that as well. Mm-hmm. Pricing it in the first place. Yeah.
I often say, Dorell, to some of our students is you never ask a builder for the price because he gives you that initial price, and then he comes back later, and you go, well, how come the price has gone up? And he said, well, I didn't know you needed kitchens, did I? You never mentioned bathrooms. You never mentioned you wanted windows. You know, it's like, well.
Yes.
Okay, numbers, so important. We have to nail numbers. Every developer needs to understand their numbers. I love that as a point. Give us a third point then. Give us a third thing, third thing that you see developers getting wrong.
Yeah, one of the things I find with developers, they everybody runs for the vanilla, magnolia, simple, aspect of their properties, and they don't really consider design. And I think they don't realize that design is one of the major aspects that can add value and to make you stand out in comparison to your competition. Creating a bit of design, having a bit of design element within your actual property actually makes your property stand out and hopefully attracts more to your property than just another property up the road. And that's one of the things I think that developers don't really consider design, the interior design aspects, and using design in their actual properties and their units.
But what could one argue though, Dorell? Maybe I mean, would it not be fair to say, well, design is expensive, or do you think actually good design is actually not necessarily expensive? What do you say?
I say good design is not necessarily expensive, and the reason I say that is because with good design, you can actually not demand a higher price for your property. If you incorporate that within your actual property, you can actually demand a higher price within your property. So that's why I think good designs would add value to your property and actually make you stand out as well. Because then once everybody starts looking at all these different aspects of same vanilla projects, and then they come to yours, of course they're going to think, oh no, I prefer this one. This is different and this is nicer. So it makes it much more appealing.
And we're not talking. I mean, you mentioned interior design, but which is obviously all part of a process. But I guess you're also thinking about just fundamentally the shape, the profile of any rooms or doors, just within the main elements itself. There's little subtleties that you could incorporate if you had enough time at the beginning and a developer let you, which wouldn't necessarily cost any more money, but would just make your project just that little bit different. Forget the interiors, just the actual building shape and profile, wouldn't it?
Building shape and profile, it's just even a little use of color. Certain functions of the types of doors, the wall plugs, or just little highlights of that, colors of kitchens. Those can also contribute to the design aspect of a building, and it's not the run-of-the-mill everyday thing. That's the thing.
Yeah. Wow. And developers, are they generally saying to you, not interested in that, just design me something with magnolia, let's just design a square box, let's just get it out? Is that sort of the remit normally?
Yes. Usually there's one saying, you know what, this what's the name? We look at that, or we look at this later on. We look at this at a later date. Let's build it first, and then we look at that. And they don't realize that that's at an expenditure. Once you look at it from the start, and my aim really for our developers is to try to create a kind of like, but almost a cookie cutter kind of way. Like, so if you kind of create your kind of identity or your kind of branding with a certain type of interior from the very start, and then all the other developments can be, like, say, have that kind of tie-in kind of look. It also makes it easier that if you kind of use the same type of builders, they can know what to do with other projects, and so they can actually incorporate that type of design element, but they know this is what your design aspect is. So you know what your design aspect is, and so you can actually do that as well. So yeah, that's what I kind of look at.
So bring it in early rather than trying to bring it in at the end, because I guess,
Right.
if particularly in terms of layout, you can't reconfigure at the end. You've got to do that early on, haven't you? And then it's not necessarily going to cost you.
Yeah, or even in the early stage, probably not at the very start, but like I said, in the very early stages of the design thing. But you probably have to get the layouts first, and once you've got the layouts, then we can actually look at saying, right, okay, what kind of furniture, what kind of hardware can we look, what kind of color scheme are you into, and things like that. So yeah, definitely before they get to that in the building stage.
Brilliant, Dorell. Look, I think that's been excellent, Dorell, today. I mean, I think we've covered those 3 points. We've talked about, so these are Dorell's things that you guys get wrong, or if you're new to development, you potentially could get wrong had you not listened to this. So make sure you write these down, okay? You can't just do what you want. Okay, you've got to adhere to planning regulations, and particularly building regulations. People don't really understand that, and that's so important that you understand that. Numbers are so important. As Dorell said, people start, and actually people are out there, and don't be one of these that got your costing information off Homes Under the Hammer. Please don't do that, whatever you ever do. I'm so sure it's an absolutely fantastic program, but it's not there to guide you professionally. And thirdly, I think what a great point Dorell's making there is, good design doesn't necessarily cost you, but think about it at the beginning, and that can give you the edge over other people and enhance the value of your project. Dorell, that's been brilliant today. I really appreciate it. I've been wanting to have a chat with you on here for ages, and I think that's really good. If people want to reach out and contact you, what's the best details?
My best details to contact me is really on my mobile phone, which is shall I give them my number?
Yeah, go for it. Shout it out.
Yeah, 07403 872 750. You can contact me on any time with that. Alternatively, you can actually call me on my email, get through to me on my email address, which is DOR, the number 2, DWELL @yahoo.com.
Great stuff. And Dorell, what we'll do is we'll put those in the show notes. Okay, we'll put those in the show notes. So if you're listening to this and you didn't grab those, just look below in the show notes, or if you're driving, listen to this on a podcast, pull over at some point, take those details down, and you've got Dorell's actual mobile phone number there. So that is great. Dorell, thank you for coming in. Have you enjoyed it?
I've loved this, Richard. This is excellent. I don't know why I was a bit apprehensive for.
Absolutely. Dorell, thank you for
much,
coming in. And thanks for chatting with us. And I look forward to catching up again soon, my friend.
Thank you very much, Richie. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Wow. That was good, wasn't it? I think what I like about Dorell is just such a personable guy. Okay. And as I said, there's no airs and graces with Dorell. He is what he is. He's a one-man band. He's building his business. He's an architectural designer. He's been around quite a while, and he understands you as a developer. So if you've got your first small projects, you're thinking about getting out there, make your own minds up. If you like what Dorell said today, if you think you could connect with him, well, reach out, have a chat with him. He might just be the person you need on your team to start your projects. And say all his details will be in the show notes. If we sparked your interest, if you'd like to think about getting involved in small-scale development, if you're not already, grab a pen and paper, write this down. I've got a link for you for what we call a 6-figure roadmap. It's a free bit of education I put together, which dips your toe into the world of small-scale property development, so you can see whether it might or might not be something for you. propertyceo.co.uk, write that down, propertyceo.co.uk/SFR. Okay, so just put that in, propertyceo.co.uk/SFR, and go and listen to a bit of free training. That might actually just be the start of your property journey. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's Open Door, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers now, bye-bye.